to our distinguished guests and participants. As we are embarked on the first session of this national conference, I anticipate a day filled with insightful discussion, a meaningful exchanges. So let us collectively dive into the realm of knowledge sharing, collaborations and inspiration. As we are beginning with our first session of our conference, which is delivered by our keynote speaker, Dr. Som Nath Singh sir, on a topic Human Sustenance Under Environment Extremes Nutritional Approach. I request Dr. Gaurav Shah sir to introduce our keynote speaker, sharing his remarkable achievements and contributions to our attentive audience.
Good morning, one and all. So, starting our conference after inauguration with a keynote address, it is an honor and privilege for me to introduce our chief guest of the function also, and who are going to deliver the keynote address, Professor Dr. Som Nath Singh. Currently, he is heading Information Department, and his designation is Scientist G at Department of Soldier Performance, Defense Institute of Physiology and Allied Sciences, DRDO, New Delhi. He is serving this DRDO since 1996, a vast experience, a highly renowned personality, down-to-earth person, and very humble human, which I have witnessed since morning when I met him. He has completed his Doctor of Philosophy from Central Drug Research Institute, CDRI, Lucknow. And our students will be very happy to know that he is Master of Science in Zoology from Lucknow University. So, biological scientist heading DRDO. He is a life member of 8 national societies and was elected as member of Sectional Committee Medical Sciences of Indian Science Congress 1999 and 2006. He is also a recipient of K.N. Bahal Gold Medal of Zoological Society of India in 1987, Lucknow University. He has also been awarded by DRDO Laboratory Scientist of the Year Award in 2004. He is also Sir Rear Admiral M.S. Malhotra Prize for the year 2001, 2005 and 2020. 3 prizes. He has also grabbed Technology Group Award in 2015. His area of work is a nutritional requirement for the armed forces concerning different environmental and physical training. His basic work is on appetite regulation, oxidative stress at high altitudes, communicable disease, and metabolism. So, a perfect person considering this conference and association with the DRDO. Many people have thought in the mind that why defense, but then defense has its own wing, life sciences, and see the person, his profile, and he's working for you. So this is the motivation for all researchers to work on these particular areas and help our soldiers who are protecting our country under the extreme climatic conditions. He has completed different studies related to the review of ration scales and determining energy and nutritional requirements of Army, Navy and Air Force personnel. He has published more than 128 research papers in the reputed national and international journal, and he has also written 21 chapters in various books having ISBN. So with wholeheartedly on behalf of Department of Biotechnology, sir, I welcome you, and I hope audience will be enriched with whatever the information you are going to share in this keynote address. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Shah, for your very great introduction. I am just a researcher, and whatever I have learned while working with our soldiers who are guarding our borders, that I will be sharing with you. Our soldiers, they are deployed under different climatic extremes. in the north side we have snow-clad mountains. As you go up in the terrestrial altitude increases, there is hypoxic environment. And hypoxia and cold one side. And in the western border, we have Thar desert, as well as your this run of Kutch. One is wet desert and other is dry desert. And in the northern side of the Himalayas, we have dry desert conditions. Dry cold is there. And in eastern side, we have wet cold. And as you go up in this and on the mountain, when the water is frozen, that time those areas are very dry. And in the eastern sector, we have large amount of jungles. In case of jungles, there is problem of infectious diseases. Many vector-borne diseases, they are there. So and then we have a very huge coastal region. And coastal region is also hot and humid condition is there. And another area is our man-made platforms. Like you might have heard about submarines. And submarines are the extreme weapon. They can remain underwater undetected for several years. With nuclear capable submarines, people have record of staying more than 1 year underwater without knowledge of anyone. And under those conditions, when you are underwater, it is very difficult to work, that is hyperbaric environment. So these type of environments are there where our soldiers work. Then there is gravity is also there, like in the supersonic crafts. The extra gravitational force that is also played on role. That's why the fighter pilots, they have one G suit they wear to cope up that extra gravitational pressure. So these are type of these are there. So with these environmental extremes, how the body works, that is knowing to this aspect in our terms of the physiology, how the body functions. So that is our area of work. So, and our institute also works on other aspects like genomics, proteomics, and also ergonomics. Ergonomics is a science man behind machine. So how a person fits there. Actually our people, they are from different height, different weight. Even in case of this, like in army, a Sikh soldier is very tall, and whereas Gorkha soldier is very small. And these people, they have to operate the weapons which need to fit with the human being. So it is not the human beings should be fitted, but instruments should be customized towards their need. So different, like Russians, they are very tall. And we have most of the earlier equipment, they were procured from Russia. So it was very difficult for them. So selection process was there, that you only select that person who is fitting to that body dimensions. But still it was problematic. If you are not comfortable with any equipment, and how it will become very difficult to use that. So ergonomics deals with that man behind machine, how to have our anthropometric data. Based on our anthropometric data, various platforms, various weapons, they are being developed by DRDO, other labs. So that is one big area. Then every individual is different. And the basic principle of science is that things are different. That's why there is need for research. And things are similar, that's why research is possible. So most of the biological phenomena, and in case of the biology, we have much variation. And our country has got various different ethnic groups. That is also a big problem, big challenge. Like in case of our, if you take food, food is also different. North Indian food, South Indian food, Gujarat food. So all type of differences are there. So cultural differences, biological differences, they all play very significant role. And then environment. Whole country has different type of environment. So these all need to be worked together, taken together, then only research can give the better results. Most of the time when we do the experiments in vitro, it is very difficult to translate that result in actual ground condition. And I remember that in earlier 20 years back, when we used to go to mountains, that time our computers were not working there. Now with the advancement, these equipment are able to work there. So that are different challenges. And with this, I have chosen this topic, human sustenance under environmental extremes, the nutritional approach. So what is the extreme environment? Extreme environment is defined as an environment where basic needs like food acquisition, shelter and protection require extraordinary effort. Why this extraordinary effort is needed? As all of you know that human beings, they are homeothermic animals. They have to defend their temperature in very narrow range of 37 degrees centigrade plus minus 1-2 degrees, and if it is less, then hypothermia is a problem, and it is more, then hyperthermia and stroke, etc. they can occur. So one side you are very well protected by being homeothermic animal, and other side environment is going to play a significant role in your survival. That's why human beings have two types of strategies. Either they modify environment or they should adapt to that environment. There are two things. So for certain things, modification is possible. For certain things, modification is not possible. Only body has to live. And another thing is that error in judgment and behavior can cause serious, even fatal consequences in extreme environments. Like you might have read about the expeditions, different expeditions, how the polar expeditions, etc., they were huge toll on the people who were going there. So most of the time when they went unprepared and not knowing that what is going to meet them there, so that was very catastrophic. Then adequate nutritional support is most important for successful adaptation. Actually, nutrition plays very important role in these conditions. Now you can see here what are the different type of environmental extremes, and they can be natural and man-made. Like low temperature, this is encountered in poles, North Pole, South Pole, altitude, terrestrial heights, that is altitude, then high temperature in tropics, then reduced pressure, altitude as well as during flight, increased pressure during diving underwater, reduced gravity, that is space has been added, another frontier for the human beings, that is this reduced gravity is there, microgravity. When the body where you are staying has very less mass, then gravity is almost zero. So they call it microgravity. Then decreased oxygen availability at high altitudes, increased oxygen during diving, change in inspired air composition that also takes place during diving, lack of water, generally in case of desert, lack of food. This can happen anywhere. If you have not planned in advance, this can happen anywhere. Then increased radiation. Space has got very high radiation. At high mountains also, there is very high solar radiation. Then isolation. Some of the places where the very few members are going. So that isolation also is a big problem. And in case of isolation, it causes much problem with the psychological profile of a person. So our country, with respect to our country, we have these type of environments like high altitude and cold. Here oxygen availability is one. Region is cold, that then hypothermia can happen there. Energy requirements are more for working in these conditions. Similarly, in hot, dry desert condition, again thermoregulation is one. How to control your temperature, body temperature. Then hypohydration. Actually, dehydration is a medical term. when the more than 4% body weight loss is there due to water loss, then it is called dehydration. Otherwise, it is called hypohydration. And hypohydration also is very, hydration status, it's a very important aspect. And if you are not drinking water regularly, it is going to create much problem. Like how to measure the hydration level? Actually, they measure by taking body weight. And after exposing the environment, you have to measure body weight. What your body weight reduction is there, that is lost due to water initially. So this even if 4% water loss, that is very difficult to cope up with again by hydrating fluids. Initially, water goes out from your extracellular space, and when from intracellular space it is going out, then it is very difficult this to maintain. Then electrolytes. Body has got profuse sweating there, and electrolyte loss is very high in case of desert conditions. So electrolyte supplementation is also need to be done. Then underwater, this is hyperbaric environment. When you go deep down, then most of the gases, they get dissolved into blood. And in case of this, some people might have heard about scuba diving. And the divers, they have a different type of the things. Like when you are diving, then air is being compressed. And once air is being compressed, so breath per breath you are taking more of the molecules of gases. So when the people come after diving, the concentration of gases increases in blood. And once they are coming back, that time if you are very fast coming to towards surface, that time bubbling will take place. And once there is bubble formation, that bubble may trap at any artery and it causes embolism. That's why this diving is very specialized training is needed. How slowly you have to come from that. Then in case of the submarines, cooking is not possible. So meals ready to eat, MRE is meals ready to eat, they are used. And it is confined environment. And confined environment again, if you happen to be in a confined environment, after some time, we start feeling aversion for each other. That is one big problem with this confined environment. Then hot humid jungles, again hypohydration, water electrolytes are lost very much, and infectious diseases are more due to vectors. There are some leachage also, leachage in mosquitoes, they cause infection. And in our country we had a problem of infectious disease as well as malnutrition in early days. Now we have problem of malnutrition, overnutrition and infectious disease. So three things are prevalent in our country. So that is one. Then another frontier has been added, that is space. Here problem is microgravity. And in case of microgravity, there is bone loss. Bone mineral leaching is there. So bones are basically weight bearing organ. Once body feels that there is no weight, so bones are not required. So that's why bone loss takes place in the space missions. Muscle deconditioning also takes place. Then space food system. This is one big area. Whatever this nowadays you see that different type of foods are available. So they have come by two ways, mainly ready to eat foods. One was for army requirement. Napoleon Bonaparte, he first started canning process. So जितना भी डब्बा बंद खाना था, that was the behind success of Napoleon. That time उन्होंने सबसे पहले शुरू किया था. Then in our space mission, various type of these ready to eat products which you see in the market also, that retard pouch, that aluminum foil जैसा जो दिखता है ना, that is a retard pouch technology that came into India during the Operation Pawan. From Russia they got this technology of retard packaging, and that is still being used for space food system. Then various factors, they influence the nutrition requirement, like your energy expenditure. Energy expenditure is very high in case of these environmental extremes. You have to do extra effort. and so you will expend more energy. And body composition, nutrient reserve, they also are important. Climatic conditions, as I told. Food availability, again, in these areas, natural food availability is very low. And sometimes food is not available from the locally. You cannot get food. Dietary habit and preferences in our country, they are different type of dietary preferences. And whatever you start eating by age of 5, that becomes your primary dietary habit. That is one. Then food choices are very complex. Various factors play important role in case of food choices. That's why diet planning becomes very difficult for environmental extremes. One is the environmental. Environment can be economic environment, lifestyle, cultural belief, traditions, religious belief and traditions. They also play very important role in selection of food. Then health status. Suppose some person is bedridden, his requirement will be different. And there is any type of restriction, that time weight gain takes place. Since you do not stop the consumption, that consumption remains same, but your energy expenditure goes down. That's why this restricted condition, due to disease or anything, it can lead to weight disturbances. Then declining test sensitivity. Test also declines with the age. As we get older, we have less sensitivity for certain type of test, like for bitter test, like bitter gourd. Young boys, they don't eat bitter gourd, they don't like to eat. But as you grow old, the sensitivity is down and medical benefits you are seeing, that's why you start liking that. Then age and gender, they also play an important role. Sensory, flavor, first thing which we see about food, that is taste and smell. First smell, appearance, texture. Then we start eating. So that will be very crucial for any food substance. Then cognitive, our behavior, social behaviors. Some people eat less during gathering, some people eat more in the social setting. Emotional needs. When a person is stressed, some people eat less, some people eat more. That is in. Then nutrition, health belief, like belief, this food will be better for me. So people like that. Advertising, this is also play very important role. जिस भी चीज का एडवर्टाइजमेंट होता है कि खा के हमारी मसल्स बन गए, people start liking that. Then genetics, again test sensitivity here plays role, like preference for sweet, avoidance of bitter, possible fat tooth. ये fat tooth is that is something very interesting. On our test buds, we have one molecule CD36, that expression. And CD36, this recognizes fat. And in case of the obese people, this CD36 expression goes up. And so you need more fat to get same test. इसीलिए आपने देखा होगा कभी जो लोग मोटे होते हैं उनको ज़्यादा फैट खाने की जरूरत पड़ती है सेम टेस्ट लाने के लिए. So that is a role of CD36 on the test buds. So that is also true. So once there is more research, then we come to know various type of things. Then total energy expenditure is the main determinant of nutritional requirement. Suppose one person wants to know what is his or her nutritional requirement. So you just have to measure your energy intake. That should match with the energy expenditure. And if it is there, then it means you will be able to maintain your body weight and health. And provision of group feeding, you have to add 10% extra for metabolic loss and wastage. Total energy expenditure has got 4 components: resting metabolic rate, basal metabolic rate, diet-induced thermogenesis, that is about 10%, then non-exercise thermogenesis need, and exercise thermogenesis. In case of our soldiers, this exercise thermogenesis is more due to their structured activities. And that all of you know that food got different type of energy in the carbohydrate, protein, fat. Fat provides about 9 calories, and your this protein about 4 calories, and carbohydrate 4 calories. Other important issues are in nutrition are individual variability, safe intake level. If you calculate the intake of a group, suppose you want to have the what should be the intake for this class or this all audience. So you just have to collect their intake level, mean intake, and add 2 standard deviation. That will cover about 97.5% population. And nutrient bioavailability, this is also very important factor. Absorption. Absorption is affected by nutrient composition. In case of most of the time, you might have seen your grand father, mother, they will be telling you that do not eat milk and meat together. This was basic knowledge of their this wisdom, that when you take calcium and iron simultaneously, their intake is inhibited. Since both are absorbed from the same receptors, and that's why absorption, in presence of calcium, absorption of iron gets affected. And meat is good source of iron, milk is good source of calcium. So once a person taking those things, they used to deprive both nutrients. That's why the people say that once you are in the meal you are taking meat, you should not take milk. That was not for any superstition, but actually this was there. But they added with the superstitions like this so that people should follow. Once this was there. That's why sometimes whatever we see in our cultural traditions, we must know what is behind this, and one should work on this type of things. Like fermented foods. Now it is known that fermented food is very good for this due to probiotics. Probiotic bacteria, they are there, and that's why. And fermented food also, there is digestion of certain anti-nutritional factors. They get digested, so they are easily absorbed and are beneficial. And in case of the fermented foods, in the tradition of Gujarat, is basically whenever a Gujarati person goes, he does not like curd from outside. So one person told me that how to get same culture to foreign countries. They used to soak one cloth with that curd culture and keep with them, and they start doing culture there. So the bacteria, those who were prevalent here, they take them to outside also. So that was one culture in the Gujarat earlier. I don't know how much it is being followed now. So that they like their own this type of culture for making curd. Then nutrient interaction and metabolic conversion, they also are very important. Like some drugs, they interact with nutrients, and metabolic conversion also determines what is the food quality. So then metabolism, micronutrients, all are burnt through the same route. They all have to be used for production of energy. Even proteins, they are very difficult to convert, but still during the process they are used for producing the energy. Then this is the main concern, the cascade effect of environmental extremes on the nutritional requirements. There is always increase in the energy and water requirement. Leads to weight loss, there is decrease in the performance. Mainly the muscles and bones, they are used for the performance, physical performance, and then if there is weight loss, it leads to decreased performance. And energy requirement of physical activity in temperate, cold and hot environment. If you see this table, here in case of these different type of activities like light, moderate, heavy, in case of the cold and hot environment, kilocalories per kg body weight, you will see the increase in the cold, requirement in the cold as well as in hot conditions for all type of activities. Then coming to the high altitude. This high altitude is different type of the heights. They are graded like this, like the city of Bangalore, that is about 2,900 feet. Then Manali, 6,000 feet, hill stations like this here, high altitude, it is called like Sonamarg sector, 9,000 feet even above. Then very high altitude, extreme high altitude and death zone. Death zone, Mount Everest. Earlier people, now some people have been able to scale, many people without oxygen. But they go for very short while. That is, in case of the mountaineering, they are very much motivated people. And once a person is motivated and has got well acclimatization, that time they are able to scale up that. But for a common person that has not been acclimatized to that condition, not knowing the skills, it is very difficult to scale those heights. And that's why it is called death zone. Then its effect of the high altitude are low fluid intake, body mass also goes down. Sleep, there is sleep disturbance. What happens when a person is sleeping? That time his breathing slows down. And every breath you are having less molecules of oxygen. So once a person is sleeping, he will go to more oxygen deprivation. That's why there is awakening. Periodic awakening is there to protect body. That's why sleep disturbances, they take place at high altitude. Then there is very high oxidative stress. Photoimmunosuppression. Whenever there is a exposure to UV radiation, there is a conversion of urocanic acid, cis to trans-urocanic acid, that is degradation product of histidine. And this trans-urocanic acid, when it is present this under skin, this is a immunosuppressive agent. That's why photoimmunosuppression also takes place. That's why some of the people might have seen that when they go to mountains and come back again to their city, they get cold, infection of cold. And that is mainly due to this photoimmunosuppression. Then physical and mental performance, they go down at high altitude. And there are some type of the diseases like acute mountain sickness. About 40%, 30 to 40% people who go to suddenly to very high altitude, by suppose one person is going by air to Leh. Leh is 11,500 feet height. So once they land up there, after 4 or 5 hours, if they are not taken rest, they start having a headache. First symptom is headache. Then there is loss of appetite and also anorexia and also GI symptoms, they also appear. So due to this, and this condition is called acute mountain sickness. And generally people, about more than 30 to 40% who go by air, they experience this. Those who are going by road, they gradually acclimatize with that condition. That's why they are not facing that much problem. Still, those who are susceptible, they have the problem. Now here again, what about those 50 to 60% people who are not having the AMS? Here plays the role of genetics. And our colleague Yamini and they will show this, how the Yamini and they will show this, how this genetics plays the role in acclimatization. Then high altitude pulmonary edema, that is the one where there is a fluid accumulation in the lungs, and this is a type of patchy edema, and there is a vasoconstriction, uneven vasoconstriction. Due to their pressure buildup takes place, and there is leakage of the blood fluid, the plasma in the lungs, and lungs become very suffocating and opaque this, and X-ray gives this completely, and only solution is that either you give oxygen therapy or bring the person down to lower altitude. And this condition is fatal condition at high altitudes. And but fortunately its occurrence is only 0.4%. That's why it is very good. At least not many people we have to evacuate. Only those who by chance have got that they worked hard there and not acclimatized, they may get this type, then we have to evacuate them to lower altitude. And this is again a very big problem for our soldiers, that we have to evacuate many people, those who fall. And nowadays we have got good medical facilities, and at least we are able to treat them there, and then we send them to lower altitude. High altitude cerebral edema, that is a name called HECO, and this cerebral edema is very fatal disease. And this high pulmonary edema takes place in initial stage, and this cerebral edema after 6 to 7 days this starts happening. So it is very difficult to recognize this. If you are not able to recognize it in an early stage, it is a fatal disease. And but what happens that with this, once a person reaches to altitude, first step is he hyperventilates. With hyperventilation, you are able to extract more oxygen. And after some time, the erythropoiesis takes place and more RBCs are formed. That time by the person gets acclimatized. Then comes another chronic mountain sickness. Here RBC count that goes very high. Hemoglobin reaches to 23 gram per dl, and with that very viscous blood is there. So this causes a chronic mountain sickness, and this is again a big problem, and that's why those who are having abnormal senses of more senses of RBC, they need to be taken to lower altitude. Then cold injuries, frostbite and hypothermia, they are very frequent, and if you are exposed to any metal with bare hands, it will cause this frostbite, chilblain, etc. Then DVT and hypertension, deep vein thrombosis, thrombotic episodes are also more in case of altitude, and hypertension, high altitude induced hypertension also takes place. So these are some of the problems. Then how to acclimatize? This acclimatization schedule has been given by our institute after many studies, and there are different stages, like first stage, second stage, third stage. Day first you have to take rest and just start walk on the level ground. Then day 3 and 4, slow piece of walk, 1.5 to 3 kilometers. 5th to 6th day you can walk and climb up to 300. By this type of this regimen, you can acclimatize, and most of the people, they get acclimatized by this process. And gradually their RBC buildup is there, and they are able to work there in those conditions. Then for those who are not able to acclimatize, we have created some oxygen-enriched shelters at high altitude, and if a person has to go for very short duration, 1 or 2 days, he can stay in the oxygenated shelter and can remain active. That is one. Then days required for near complete acclimatization. Near complete acclimatization means you are able to work up to 90% of your physical activity you can do with that. So altitude in kilometers multiply by 11.6. And suppose you want to acclimatize to Leh height, that is 3.6 kilometers, 3,600 meters. So multiply by 11.6, it will be in about 42 days. So complete acclimatization will take place about 42 days. Then you will be able to work there as you are doing work in the sea level. Then pre-acclimatization. Now there came a need that how we can deploy our soldiers very quickly. Like you might have seen in some of the movies during Kargil time, they were made. The soldiers were saying that we have been put up into acclimatization, we want to go there, but still we have to wait. So wait was required, since you cannot function there, you cannot fight war. So that's why they were put on the acclimatization, and those who were already posted, they were fighting the first. So that's why this need came that how we can quickly post the soldiers. For that our institute is working at present, and we have found that if you expose to them to normobaric hypoxia means barometric pressure is not down, but just you have decreased oxygen concentration at sea level itself. So by pumping more nitrogen in a room, that amount of oxygen from 21% it is kept below about 12%, and that is equivalent to 4,300 meters. And with that, if a person is kept there for 4 hours, he works in that environment, he sits there for 4 hours, 4 days, then he can be directly flown to that and he can be able to fight the war that time. So this is a new development, and we have created some of these chambers at Chandigarh and one at Bengaluru for this experimental purpose, that how fast we can acclimatize our soldiers and put them to that place. That is one recent development, and with this we are able to post them. Then another is use of prophylactic drugs. One drug is stazolamide, that is carbonic anhydrase inhibitor. Diamox is given, and Diamox 250 milligram 1 day prior. Suppose you have to go next day and you are prone to AMS, then you can take the Diamox, and by taking this Diamox tablet 250 milligram 1 day prior or 125 milligram 2 tablets, then you will be able to have less symptoms of the AMS at high altitude. Then another factor is obesity is risk factor for AMS. Those people who are obese, they are more prone to acute mountain sickness. So those people who are having the body mass index more than 25, they should be cautious about how to travel to these mountains. Some of the slides are not coming in this thing. Okay. PDF को खोल लो, PDF खोलो तभी रहेगा फाइल. इसको बंद करके.
इसके अंदर ही
नहीं बाहर. फुल आएगा F5. Energy and nutrient needs are more at high altitude in comparison to sea level, and this is because there is an increase in the total energy expenditure. And why total energy expenditure increases? There is increase in the physical activity, and thermic effect of food remains same. इसके नीचे. Yeah. And basal metabolic rate is also more at high altitude in that conditions, and it remains high up to 21 days, so energy requirement is more in comparison to sea level. Like suppose in case of the sea level, the energy requirement is 3,600 calories per day, and it goes up to 42,000 kilocalories per day. So in the planning of the ration for soldiers, we take care of this type of activities, and for the normal person, only 2,400 calories are sufficient. Even 2,000 calories are sufficient. And in case of soldiers, we give them 3,600 calories due to their high energy expenditure. And in case of soldiers, there is energy expenditure reaches up to 7,000 calories. In case of the training, like commando training, in case of commando training, energy expenditure goes up to 7,000 calories per day. And it is very difficult to feed a person 7,000 calories in a day. And And there is mismatch between energy intake and energy expenditure at high altitude. Energy intake goes down, energy expenditure is more at high altitude. And these are different studies carried out at this. So intake is less, energy expenditure is more. So that is a mismatch there. Only with acclimatization people are able to eat. Then this is the nutrient intake of different, this is our data from different studies. Then body composition again changes. There is weight loss at heights, and more weight loss is from fat, and 1/3 is from lean body mass. And once this lean body mass goes down, then there is decrease in the performance. So we are trying to have the means how to preserve that lean mass. Then carbohydrate rich diets. If you are taking more carbohydrate at high altitude, that is beneficial. As their RQ is towards 1, that's why they say beneficial they are. They increase in the pulmonary diffusion capacity, increase arterial oxygen circulation, superior work performance. Then GI functions, gastrointestinal functions, there is no change in nutrient digestibility. And these type of studies have been carried out on the soldiers, and it has been seen that if you are able to give them that food, it is being digested. Whatever the food intake is there, that is digested. And for that, they have done the studies like intake and then collected fecal matters and analyzed the nutrient composition of there. And they found that there is most of the things they are digested in the high altitude. Digestibility is about 95%. There is no change in the gastric juice volume. Concentration of acid and total acid output in this during basal it is low, but maximal it is equivalent. There is no change. And what is this basal and maximal? Once the food is taken, that time acid secretion takes place in the stomach. That is called maximal in this. For that, pentagastrin stimulation is done. One injection of the pentagastrin is done, then bile acid is collected. That with that method, this has been shown that there is no change in the maximal acid output at high altitude. So digestibility is not affected. Then this is one very classical paper published in 1975 by our previous workers of our team. And what they have found that they fed with very high level of the fat, about the 364 gram fat they fed to them soldiers by adding more ghee in their diet, and collected stool sample and analyzed how much fat content is coming. So they found that 95% whatever intake was that was digested. So if you are able to consume fat, it is going to be metabolized, being utilized by the body. So that is one benefit at high altitude. Digestibility is not affected. But same time at high altitude, problem is of anorexia. There is decrease in appetite and quick onset of satiety. Suppose a person is taking food at sea level, about 30 minutes he gets satiated. But when you go to mountains, within 10 minutes you get satiated, you feel full. That's why quick onset of satiety, that is one major cause. And reason for this, we started working on why this is taking place. And so we found that there are different, this is that decrease in the quick onset of satiety. Possible mechanism, we found that there is raised blood glucose level. Blood glucose level, they remain high up to 10 months of stay. So one reason is that glucose level is more in the circulation. That's why it is saying that your body is having more nutrients, so appetite is decreased. Then change in taste sensitivity. Sensitivity also changes. Like for sweet and salt, sensitivity is less. For bitter and sour, it is increased. It means bitter, whatever here we are feeling bitter, it will be more bitter at high altitude. And sweet, less sweet at there. So that's why people add more sugar in their cup of tea at high altitude, the region. So for the sweet and salt, it is decreasing. Another side is there, if you are having less sensitivity for salt, you will add more salt. And earlier I have told that there is hypertension is also there. So this is compounding the factors, these health problems at high altitude. Then change in appetite regulatory peptide and proteins. This work we carried out, that we found that leptin, one protein that is secreted from adipocytes. This protein gives signal to our hypothalamus by interacting with neuropeptide Y and regulates food intake. Suppose there is more leptin level, means body has got more fat cells and more leptin is secreted. Then hypothalamus senses it that body stores are more. It secretes, this lowers the NPY levels, and it down regulates this leptin level. By this, weight maintenance takes place. But at high altitude, what happens? That leptin level, they are more. And that's why body is sensing that already stores are more, so stop eating. But it is not the case. This is a mismatch there. More secretion is there, but same time it is not actually matching with the energy store. That is one. Then NPY levels, they go down. Ghrelin also goes down. Ghrelin is called hunger hormone. In hunger hormone is when we are hungry, that time its level are more, and its basal level goes down. This is secreted from acinar cells of the stomach, and we found its level are low. And this are the cause for this high altitude anorexia. And we are trying to have some modulators of this type of molecules so that we can increase the intake, food intake. And the CCK8 level are increased. If you can down regulate this, decrease CCK8 level, that time you will be able to have more food with this. So appetite will be there. So CCK8, like in case of the Ayurvedic formulations, triphala is there. And it has been found that there are some inhibitors of CCK8 are present in the Amalki and Haritki. आंवला और हरड़ में जो है they are CCK8 inhibitors are present. Then there is increased oxidative stress and increased requirement of antioxidants at high altitude. And this has been shown that by this total antioxidant activity remains increases at high altitude. But this is again one problem with that assay. When we found that this ABTS decolorizing assay, it is measured by ABTS decolorizing assay, total antioxidant activity. But what happens at high altitude? In our studies, when we were doing this study, that time we found that it is increasing. But same time, other antioxidants are decreasing. And why it is increasing? And we found that there is increase in the uric acid. And uric acid is main contributor to this test. So this test has also become invalid for high altitude. Though there is oxidative stress, but same time this test is not giving the true results. So uric acid production is more at high altitude, and once uric acid is more, then again you see the uric acid is associated with arthritis, all those problems. That's why those people suffering with arthritis type disease, they suffer more at the mountains. So uric acid increases there, and there is also decrease in the creatinine clearance at high altitude, that also takes place. And how this oxidative stress is measured by hydroperoxide levels and also protein carbonyls, they are more, this showing and how there is oxidative stress. Then vitamin C and E supplementation study was carried out in the soldiers in 1996. Long ago this study was carried out, and we found that pentane level. Here in the case of the human beings, there are two types of the assay can be done. One is your conventional thiobarbiturate acid assay. Just you put with the thiobarbiturate acid reactive substances, you measure them. In the plasma or serum, you can measure. But in case of the intact human being, how to measure? For that, you do the breath pentane. Once pentane level is more, it means fatty acids are being oxidized more. This type of lipid peroxidation products, they are forming more in the body. That's why by GC, breath pentane level were measured, and it was found that there is very high level of breath pentane at high altitude. And this is a direct indication that there is more formation of lipid peroxides there. And by adding this vitamin C, its level go back towards normal, and vitamin E is less effective in comparison to that, but their combination was also not that much effective. So only vitamin C supplementation is done at high altitude at present. Similarly, vitamin C supplementation with thiobarbiturate acid reactive substances, again a marker of oxidative stress. Again here vitamin C is superior in comparison to vitamin E and also combination. Then this is another development. We have studied this beetroot juice, a source of dietary nitrate to improve endothelial functions at high altitude. This dietary nitrate to nitrite conversion, then this is helpful in the producing more nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is vasodilatator. So this vascular functions, they improve by supplementation of beetroot juice. And our sister lab at DF Mysore, they developed juice for this, stabilized juice. And it is very difficult to drink that juice normally in case of the, if you just get the chukandar crust and start eating it very bit, somewhat irritation takes place in the mouth. So that is again a problem. So they prepared a stabilized juice and it is very tasty, and we carried out some studies with the soldiers by supplementing them with this, and we found that it improves cyclic GMP level. Pulmonary artery pressure, which is generally more at high altitude, it also goes down. And surprisingly, we found that HDL cholesterol levels, by taking 15 days, this 250 ml juice, is HDL cholesterol was improving. And it is very difficult to improve HDL cholesterol, and most of the time people have low HDL cholesterol. And it is good cholesterol, but its level is improving by this. And total antioxidant level goes up, and also this oxidative stress goes down with this. And there are certain other studies also people have carried out in other parts and also on the cyclists and athletes, and it improves the VO2 max, maximum oxygen intake, it improves. So this is a good product, but it has got one inherited limitation. Some people are not able to metabolize betaline, that is color. So once they drink this beetroot juice, they have colored urine and they become afraid. So it is inherited that people are two types. Some people are able to metabolize betaline, some people are not able to metabolize betaline. So even those are not able to metabolize betaline, they should not be afraid by this. So they can consume the beetroot. Then another product we developed for our soldiers, that is quercetin. Quercetin is a polyphenolic flavonoid, and this is very good antioxidant as well as anti-inflammatory molecule. And various studies, first it was carried out in the animal models, then with soldiers, and we found that this has got very good potential. And one food product, food bar has been developed, and this has got very good activity on the anti-inflammatory cytokines. It reduces the cytokines level there. Now this IL-6 and inflammatory markers, and also this NF-kappa B, this is also able to inhibit that. And this product, though we developed for this our soldiers, and during this COVID time, and it was very good for this our people, those who consume this food bar, they were able to control that cytokine storm. After that was big impact this. And we carried out its phase 1 trial, and phase 2 trials we could not carry out with these patients, but still those without trial, who consumed this, they were having very good profile of the cytokines. And now we are going to use it for this to curtail the high altitude pulmonary edema at high altitude. And this is one of our trial team, which is at Hanale, one high altitude location, where you can see the mountains and many soldiers. And it has got FSI license and has been found very good, and TOT has been given to 3 firms. Then nutrition recommendation for high altitude. emphasis should be given to optimal carbohydrate and fluid intake. Increase energy intake by 500 calories by giving carbohydrate-rich food. Increase variety and palatability of diet. And no specific requirement for micronutrients except antioxidants. Only antioxidant you have to supplement with. So soldiers are given this vitamin C tablet there. Since food alone is not able to suffice the need, there is due to anorexia, people not able to consume that much food. That's why this is given. Then water, more than 3 liters per day is required to cover the diuresis as well as insensible water loss. Once you are in the cold environment, thirst perception goes down. So insensible water loss is there. So you have to prevent that insensible water loss. That's why जो भी उनके सीओ होते हैं कहते हैं हर एक सोल्जर 12 ग्लास पानी पिएगा, ये एक आर्डर की तरह दिया जाता है और फिर वो लोग पीते हैं उसको. Then more research is needed towards anorexia. Another environment is cold environment. Here again thermoregulation is very important. And how thermoregulation is done? By vasoconstriction and vasodilatation. Once you are exposed to cold, there is vasoconstriction. So peripheral blood supply is curtailed. More of the blood is towards core. And again it goes to periphery with the dilatation. So this keeps on vasoconstriction and dilatation. This happens on the frequent intervals. And with this method, body is able to prevent the cold injuries and all those. Then metabolic heat production, shivering is the one, metabolic heat production. People start shivering. Voluntary muscular work, generally हम लोग जब cold में होते हैं हाथों को रगड़ लेते हैं. So then also this cardiac response, increased cardiac output. And thermoregulation is affected by gender. Less heat loss in females due to fat accumulation. Then age, muscle mass decreases with old age. Once a person is having less muscle mass, he will not be able to produce more energy, this heat energy. Like uncoupling proteins. Heat is produced by uncoupling proteins. This activity of uncoupling, more heat is produced. That's why this once muscle mass is decreased, heat production decreases. That's why when any bujurg says that I am feeling more cold, do not ignore him. Give him the kambal. So drugs, some ephedrine, caffeine, theophylline. Theophylline is a component of the tea, coffee. They increase the heat production. And energy expenditure is very high in cold and polar environments. It can go up to the 4,000 to 7,000 calories. Fats are well tolerated, but carbohydrate is the main fuel. Supplementation with vitamin C improves cold-induced vasodilatation response and accelerates thermogenesis. This is one response of the body that is called cold-induced vasodilatation. One side you heard that once you are exposed to cold, you are having vasoconstriction. Now I am calling it vasodilatation. So what is this? Actually what happens, if your extremities, they are not with their blood flow is curtailed, so they will not get nutrient and oxygen. So there is chances of damage. That's why body has got its own mechanism that cold induced vasodilatation. There is vasoconstriction. Then after some time, with the CNS influence, with the central nervous system influence, blood quickly flows towards extremities with vasodilatation. So vasodilatation after certain interval takes place, and blood again, the heart blood from core that goes towards periphery. So that is called cold-induced vasodilatation response. And this response is measured by putting your hand into ice-chilled water and measuring the blood flow. It is very difficult test being carried out on the people, but and very important. Suppose this response is not adequate, it means you are more prone towards damage with frostbite, etc. But if this response is intact and you are having better response, you will be protected from this type of injury. That's why the test is done. Blood flow is measured by dipping the hand in this. and after certain time there is increased blood flow. And if you give the vitamin C supplementation, this improves. That's why this cold-induced vasodilatation response, and vitamin C helps in the thermogenesis. Nutrient requirement, we first time studied during 20th Indian Antarctic expedition. Our team members, they went to Antarctica in this expedition and did the study, and we found that there was one problem of the putting weight there. So people were having less activity and more intake, and most of the fatty foods and all processed food they were to be there. That's why people were gaining weight, and this gain was due to this again dysregulation between hormones. That's why this was there. So a study was carried out, and then gut microbiome study was carried out during 35th Antarctic expedition, and supplementation was made by probiotics in the 30th expedition. And it has been found that there is a disturbance in the gut bacteria, there is dysbiosis, and one culture was produced, and this culture probiotic supplementation now it is available in the market, and this is implemented in that those who go there, they are now taking this, and by that they are able to maintain the gut health. Thermic effect of feeding, this is very important in the case of the cold temperature, and proteins have very high thermic effect. That's why if you are taking more protein in the diet, your thermic effect will protect this body. That's why fats have low thermic effect, and carbohydrates slightly higher, proteins have very high thermic effect. So high BMR in the Eskimos has been observed, and this is due to high protein intake in their diet. So this was for cold. For hot environment, this can be dry heat in desert, hot humid, tropical jungles, sea coastal area. Artificial hot environment, they are operational environment. In the engine rooms, there is very high the temperature. Heat stress, there is a decreased gastrointestinal functioning. So GI functions, they are disturbed under heat conditions. There is increase in the core temperature, decrease in gastric emptying and intestinal motility. So it causes cramps, belching, flatulence, vomiting, diarrhea, nausea. These are some of the symptoms of the heat stress. Hypohydration leads to decreased physical and mental functions, and heat stroke is a fatal condition. When the temperature is very high, it increases, not able to control, the heat stroke takes place. Water is the primary requirement and overshadows all other nutrient requirements. So first thing is the fluid intake. You have to maintain the hydration level. Energy expenditure goes up to again 4,000 to 4,700 calories, and in deserts slightly less, but humid jungles this is very high. Actually each ml of the blood, this sweat evaporated for giving you cooling effect, it loses about 16 calories. So this type of the heat loss is there. Proteins are poorly tolerated due to thermic effect, and increase in the water requirement for metabolic excitation. Protein are produce nitrogenous waste. So excrete out that nitrogenous waste, you need more water. So if you increase protein in your diet during hot environment, it is going to be detrimental. Only that requirement, minimum requirement of the proteins, that is 0.8 to 1.2 gram per kg body weight, that is sufficient for the protein requirement. Decreased food intake is an adaptive change, but voluntary decrease may lead to inadequate level of key nutrients. Iodine, chromium, selenium and zinc are lost in sweat in appreciable amounts. So you need to supplement with these nutrients. And one study was carried out for this iodized salt, how much salt is required under hot environment. And we found that 15 to 16 gram per day is adequate intake. Hydration level and mission in the heat. And first this marker, how to know that you are hydrated or not. And for that, urine color, this is a very good marker. And if you are having this dark yellow urine, it means you are dehydrated. And just start drinking water so that it can come to the normal color. So that is one. So ensure the fluid intake, until the urine color returns. So one must maintain the hydration level if he is working in the hot environment. So, and we also worked for some of the nutraceuticals like composite Indian herbal preparations. They act as adaptogen. We supplemented with cysteine also, as it is a good this cysteine donor and helps in the preservation of the glutathione levels, but it was not that much effective. Then branch chain amino acid supplementation studies we have tried to improve performance. They are helpful in the maintaining performance. Calorie restriction studies. For suppose there is a war, we cannot provide total food. So we have done some calorie restriction studies also. So how much the minimum calories are required to sustain? And it has been observed that about 40% restriction for 7 days. This has no adverse effect on the performance. Only thing is that people feel hungry. For that we also worked. So how to suppress the hunger. So we found that two plants, one is the Hoodia gordani and another is Caliruma fimbriata. Hoodia gordani is the African plant, Namibian plant. Namibian tribes, they use this cactus for their long hours to suppress appetite. And we found that about 6 hours, if you are taking this 1 gram per kg body weight, it is going to suppress your hunger for the 6 hours. Once we are able to mix it with some food item and we can give it to our soldiers in case of such type of emergency, that time they may not feel hungry. And your body fat, it will fill the requirement. So the hunger pangs will not be there. So that's why we worked on this. But since Hoodia gordani was not available in the country, we found that Caliruma fimbriata, this cactus is available. And our tribes, they are using this as a famine food. And so this can be used in case of the emergency. Another frontier is our space. So from this hot environment, cold environment, altitude, now we can go to space. So the first person, Rakesh Sharma, he was the first person. And in 1984, he, on the 2nd April, he became the first Indian to travel space. Now in the 2024, we are planning to have some mission, 2024 or 25. There will be one, Gaganyaan mission is there. So with that, we are, by our indigenous technology, ISRO is going to place a person. And DRDO, our food lab, they are contributing to provide them food for this. And during this Rakesh Sharma's mission, that time Suji halwa, retard pouch packed Suji halwa was sent to space. That was the first product from defense lab which gone to space. Though they developed many products, but this was the only product which was taken along with that Russian crew, and it was liked very much at this. And you might have seen the MTR products. Their Suji halwa is available. That is defense, this DFRL technology based food. So these are different. The first 1961, first human orbit, Gagarin, when he orbited this for 108 minutes only. Then most of the studies were carried out in the Sky Lab, biological experiments. Then space shuttle, then Mir was a Russian station that is not functional now. And then Shuttle Mir, International Space Station, and our various Chandrayaan, MOM, Gaganyaan, they are the products. Gaganyaan is the first manned mission which is going to take place. And here again DRDO is going to have given some of the technologies like recovery parachute that is given by our this Agra lab, that is a material lab, and food is given provided by DFRL, and yoga package has been given by DIPAS, my lab, and then one product is noise cancellation, active noise cancellation. That is also our department has given, our institute has given that. Effect of microgravity on humans, space motion sickness. That is one. First, it is experienced by 60 to 70% astronauts and cosmonauts, and it lasts about 2 to 7 days. At the time when you have to do maximum work, that time you are having the space motion sickness. Then cardiovascular deconditioning, this takes place. This fluid separates towards head. That's why there is swelling in the head and decreases orthostatic tolerance and also increases heart rate, decrease in the pulse pressure. Then people also have got tendency of spontaneous syncope. This is more pronounced during returning there. That's why when they are coming back, that time they are in the supine position in the module, and they are not advised to stand up. Once a sudden stand up, you will have less blood volume, you will be in the, you may go into the coma that time. That's why they rest this in supine position. Hematological changes, there is reduction in plasma volume and red blood cell mass, bone mineral loss is there, muscle deconditioning takes place. People are not able to walk after long missions. So these are some of the conditions, challenges where research is needed. Energy requirements are calculated by normal formulae for every crew member. Each crew member is taken as one entity and his planning is done by that. And here you will see that magnesium level, this is more than RDA here. Magnesium is very good for the heart. That's why the magnesium level are more in this. This is the vitamin and trace element requirement. And this is the replica of that module which is going to be placed by ISRO. That. I also visited that time that energy requirement line. Then our DFRL, other team members are from DFRL. They have provided the food. And a special thing has been given for them, water. Water actually this has to be packed specialized. Just you have to sip from. One side valve is there. So that's why water packaging is costing them very high. Planning for missions in extremes, again it should be wholesome nutrition, variety should be there, it should be palatable, acceptance and cost effective production. And same time this safety to environment, sustainability for the environment is also important. That's why biodegradable products are also coming to mind. Then GI complaints are more during missions. One must take care of this hygiene and again stress due to change in diet, dehydration, too much fiber, poor sanitary condition, contaminated food, unfamiliar bacteria. If you are going to work on other environment, you do not know what type of bacteria you are going to encounter there. That's why prevention, stay hydrated, avoid raw salad, cold food if uncertain about hygienic conditions. Actually, I have worked with the infectious disease as well as nutrition. That's why I always suggest people do not eat salad if you have not cut yourself. The best way, if you are uncertain, don't take raw. Whatever is being heated, you take only that food. That is the best way to this. Do's and don'ts for recreational and medicinal planning. Here again, to provide hot meals whenever possible. People will gradually eat more when warm meals are consumed socially. Do not assume that everyone is eating. Some people may not eat in the group. Do schedule break for meal, snacks, even when individual food has to be consumed. Again, do not allow junk food substitute for meals. Generally, जब भी हम एक्सपीडिशन में जाते हैं जंक फूड खाना शुरू कर देते हैं. Do encourage engaged food intake. Do not compromise with the personal hygiene. बहुत ही important है. Do observe what food items are being consumed. Picky dietary habits can lead to imbalance in macronutrients and micronutrients both. Do not permit individual to use expedition as crash weight loss course. Like for high altitude, I have told that there is weight loss. One should not do this for weight loss. Then from the Gujarat side, these are the two people who are extreme cases. I thought that I should include them since I have got opportunity to work on them. That's why this. One was Hira Ratan Manik. He was popularly known as HRM. Now no more. He was a sun-gazing vegetarian. He used to watch early rising sun. and he said that he can fast with that. He has a decreased appetite due to that. And he fasted for 211 days in 1995 to 96. And weight loss was 40.5 kg. And this weight loss, it is explainable. Actually, it gives about 1000 calories per day of that period, and he was able to sustain on that 1000 calories. And again, he did this again, then his weight loss was less, 18 kg. But here one very important thing was that on 401st day, he climbed Palitana hill on foot. So that energy level was maintaining, he was maintaining energy level. And it is a very extreme case. Here we are puzzled that how this, he was able to, okay, this his calories were 1000 calories per day, he was able to meet them with the fasting. He was taking water, fortunately. But how he was maintaining his B group of vitamin level, that is very difficult to explain that. So we believe that his whatever sun gazing he used to say, that might have been working by somehow, but we do not have any scientific explanation. And he was the person who used to go to people that you can study on me. And even he said he went to also, and they did a study for 1 month. But when we contacted them to NASA people, they just said they don't have any record of that type. So this Hirat and Manik was one case. Another case was Sri Prahlad Jani ji, Mataji. And he was one person who lived without food and water since 1940. His claim was very high. Yes. He was not taking in water. If you do not take water for 3 days, you will not survive. And this person was studied twice. First time 2003 by Dr. Sudhir Saha and his team at Sterling Hospital, Gujarat. Next time in 2010, we also joined them. And he came to that time, he himself volunteered for the study. And he was kept for 14 days in the one room in the Sterling Hospital under CCTV surveillance, and he did not took any water or food during that 14 days in the usual way. Why I am calling usual way? After third day, he said he needs to take bath. He cannot live without bathing. So he was given one big parat to this plate. For that, all water was measured first, and again he was again measured that water. So we found that he not consumed any water with the diet, but skin cannot absorb water, and also he has not that whatever loss was there of this some few 100 mLs, that might have been some spillage. And he was also not taking that. After 14 days, we discontinued him, and we were not able to explain that where from this energy and this water is getting. And his kidney functions were normal, totally. His body functions were normal. He was able to climb 7th floor of the hospital, where we were just gasping for the air, but he was able to climb. Very difficult to explain phenomena. He was at that time 81-year-old. His brother was a control, and for getting this ethical permission was very difficult for this study. And we took the ethical permission for that, and his brother was control. And the aging, though his body was aging towards this, but other his body functions, they were absolutely normal, this person. So that one extreme case from this place of the Gujarat. Still there is need for the various type of research. The energy expenditure by DIW technique is needed. This technique is called W-leveled water technique. And here two types of isotopes are used, 18O and deuterium. and body acts as itself as a reactor for this. Since this 18O, this has got two roots. One is as water, another is as carbon dioxide. So this difference between excreting out this deuterium and 18O gives the carbon dioxide production. So for a total period of the activity, when you are going to measure the energy expenditure, this is very good method. And here nothing is to be noted, only you have to take urine sample, then enrich body with deuterium and 18O containing water, and this has got very high safety. About 22 liters you need to for this, but here only 100 ml he has to drink. And then once you collect the urine sample, second urine sample, and analyze their ratio of 18O to 16O and also this deuterium to hydrogen, you will be able to calculate how much energy he has expended during that entire period. So this is a very accurate method for measuring energy expenditure. Studies are needed for this with this technique, how much people are spending energy. So by this method we will be able to accurately measure the energy expenditure and nutrient requirements. So there is need. Then reference data on body composition, it is needed. What should be the ideal this thing? Like body weight, this index, body weight index takes only this body weight into consideration. Height in meters, weight in kg divided by height in meters square, that is BMI. BMI is not very accurate measure for the body composition. So we need to measure body composition of our population. Then define macro and micronutrient requirement, sustaining immune function and disease resistance, gut microbiome need to be studied for different populations, performance enhancer nutraceutical research is still needed, protein and amino acid requirement. Then you have to develop some study to improve protein shelf-life stability. Proteins are very prone to degradation. So the shelf-life stability of proteins, that is good topic, especially for the biotechnologists, you can do that. Then enhance satiety and acceptability of ready-to-eat products. Their satiety need to be increased. Then nutrigenomics and personalized nutrition. How every individual is different. How we can people healthy by giving them only food of the what is good for the person. That is personalized nutrition. And personalized nutrition concept was prevailing earlier in the Ayurveda and those. So they were prescribing the diet, but nowadays it is being prescribed, but not that way. So personalized nutrition is a coming area, emerging area, and for each individual by taking his food, habitual diet, he can be kept healthy. That is one. So nutrigenomics by genetic makeup and what the requirement, this is an emerging area of the research. It will be good for the general population, but may not be applicable to our soldiers, that where we have to supply the food. So every individual cannot be supplied differently. But for disease prevention and healthy life, it is very good area coming period. So that's all. We have certain facilities with our lab. We have got this IRMS, that is a ratio mass spectrometer for doubly leveled water techniques. GC and AS. ICP-MS is there for metals to be used. Thank you. I will be happy to answer any question if any queries are there.
Sir, if a soldier is working at the high altitude and let's say he's working there and going home for vacation, let's say 6 months. So when he returns back and rejoins his duty, so he has to follow that acclimatization regime again.
Yes. Every time whenever he is away more than 15 days, he has to follow that.
Only 15 days period.
Only 15 days if he is coming back, then he can go straightway. Otherwise, he has to follow the schedule.
Right. Thank you, sir.
Sir, I'm sure there will be many women soldiers in extreme conditions. So how does the menstruation cycle gets affected? And how does the capability of holding a child or all those bodily functions get affected in extreme conditions?
In extreme conditions, this menstrual cycles, they do get affected, and also there are problems at high altitude in the stillbirth problems are there. So most of the people who go from the plains, they are not advised to conceive there and give birth there. They need to be there in the sea level itself. Only even in this case of the child mortality during this stillbirth is very high at higher mountains. Some studies are going on for the females, since in our mostly the soldiers they were males. Now many female soldiers are going. So data is less, but still these problems are there.
I had another one question. We talked about beetroot juice. So how does the consumption of raw food, cooked food, and juiced food changes the nutritional, availability?
Actually, cooking of foods that improves some of the nutritional availability, but some heat level things they get deteriorated, so they get decreased. So you have to take care of that both the things. Like cooking improves the absorption, improves bioavailability. For certain nutrients, they get reduced. So it needs to be balanced between the raw food and cooked food.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, as you said that cooked food is better than the raw food, but how will we send the cooked food there? I mean, the time lapse would be higher, so is it possible to send cooked food there?
Actually, we are for those conditions where the cooking is not possible, we give them ready-to-eat products. And ready-to-eat products are two types: ready to constitute and directly ready to eat. Directly ready to eat products are those who are already cooked. Only you have to heat and eat it. So that is one. For ready mixage, you can, with minimal preparation, you can prepare them at those conditions. And this type of condition comes only for very few places where the supply cannot be given during the rough weather, like during the snowfall. You cannot provide them food. So that time they sustain on such type of the foods. And that time, like this fruits and vegetables, fresh vegetables, they are not available. So if time duration is more than 3 months, then we also supplement with the nutrients.
So you mentioned one condition which is hypoxia. So in hypoxia condition, our body mitochondrial cells are start degrading. So your like exercise schedule is enough to overcome that problem, because without mitochondria, if we could we get that food supplement, then doesn't mean that.
Actually, what happens? This mitochondria, they do not degrade itself by the hypoxia. Even they produce more mitochondria for this. Yeah, with hypoxic exposure, mitochondrial population increases with time. So that only in case of the anoxia type of thing, the mitochondrial degradation will take place.
You mentioned that carbohydrate release more energy than liquid. So that
No,
you
under hypoxic condition,
under
this
hypoxic
once
condition.
oxygen is less available, that time its RQ is better towards one. That's why they give the energy. Like, more suitable, not giving the more energy, but more suitable for it.
so much, sir, for such an informative session. Now I kindly request Dr. Gaurav Shah sir to felicitate our respected Dr. Somnath sir with the memento, symbolizing our gratitude for their valuable contributions.